Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto was adopted by Tsunade. Naruto is taken from the Leaf Village and raised as Tsunade's son. What will happen when he meets another blonde in sand? What will happen to the shinobi world when he finds something that was not even found by the Sage of Six Path himself? Stay tuned to the channel to find out. Make sure to hit that like button to show you enjoy the video, and make sure to subscribe for more. Link to the story is in the description. Now with that out of the way, enjoy the video. Chapter 5. A reason to return. After feeding the boy, Hiruzen left the now sleeping boy in his crib and went back towards his desk and sat down in his chair. He then started to write a letter. When he was done writing, he did a set of very specific hand signs for a very specific jutsu. Summoning jutsu, he muttered silently, trying not to wake up the peacefully sleeping baby. There was a small puff of smoke. Soon the smoke cleared and a regular-sized monkey could be seen waiting. The monkey's body and tail are covered by white fur, which protrudes from his sleeves and pants. He has shoulder-length white hair and has short sideburns. He wore a black kimono shirt with mesh armor underneath, which is held closed by a blue sash. The monkey also wore a Leaf Village forehead protector. Greetings Sarutobi-san, the animal greeted his summoner. Greetings, Satori. I need you to deliver this to my student Tsunade, ASAP. Asked Hiruzen, handing the monkey a folded letter. It'll be done Sarutobi-san. Replied the monkey as he took the letter from Hiruzen before disappearing in a puff of smoke while holding the folded letter. With that being done, Hiruzen decided to complete the tons of paperwork pending on his desk before the baby wakes up again. Somewhere in Tanzaku town, a certain blonde-haired female was not having a good day. When she first woke up to start her day, the teacup her assistant gave her tea in, actually cracked in her hands. Soon in the gambling bar, as soon as she started gambling today, she started to win. One might be thinking that winning was supposed to be good, right? Maybe winning was good for others, but that is not the case with her. For her, winning is a bad omen. She was having bad omens since last night. Her assistant, a fairly tall female with black hair, was standing near her. She was actually looking happy that her master is finally winning. But then she noticed the upsetting look on her master's face. Let's go Shizune, ordered the blonde female. The now identified Shizune's eyes grew to the size of dish plates with a sweat drop forming on her backside of the head. Lady Tsunade, she questioned her master with quizzical expression on her face. She could not believe that her master, who would never quit gambling even when she was losing horribly, was actually leaving a game when she was actually winning. You heard me, let's go, Tsunade demanded her assistant and started walking off from the bar. Shizune became worried at her master's sudden change in demeanor, but still followed her outside. They were walking towards the inn they are now staying at. There was an awkward silence between the master and apprentice duo. Soon they entered their room and started to get ready to go to bed. The silence between both of them was broken by a sudden puff of smoke on Tsunade's bedside table. When the smoke cleared, a Satori could be seen holding a note. Satori. Tsunade seemed surprised by the sudden appearance of her sensei's summon. Lady Tsunade, greeted Satori respectfully. Sarutobi-san wanted this to be delivered to you immediately. He said and handed the letter to the blonde female and then disappeared the same way he appeared. Shizune seemed as confused as her master was, by the sudden appearance of a monkey summon. She saw her master open the letter and then start to read. Tsunade Senju, before I go into any further details, I want to apologize for disturbing you when you're off duty, to mourn the loss of your loved ones. But a disaster struck Leaf last night and many lives are in danger. Only you and your medical expertise can save them. Leaf Village needs you. Please come back to Leaf, to save those in need. P.S. Minato and Kushina lost their lives defending the village. Don't let their sacrifices be in vain. As soon as Tsunade read the last line, her eyes went wide with shock. Soon she got up and started to get ready like she was going somewhere. While she was getting ready, she had a grim expression on her face. Her assistant could not keep the curiosity within her and asked her master, Lady Tsunade, what's the message in the letter? Tsunade did not answer her question, but instead said, pack our things, Shizune, we're leaving. Lady Tsunade. Shizune was surprised. We're going back to Leaf Village. Tsunade informed her assistant. Leaf. Shizune almost shouted in shock. After all, her master did take a vow to never set a foot in the Leaf Village again. Tsunade ignored her assistant's outburst and replied, yes. Now Shizune did not know whether to be happy that she and her master are finally going back to Leaf or to ask her master why she wants to return to Leaf. In the end Shizune decided to go with the later and asked, Lady Tsunade, why do you want to go back to Leaf, now? Shizune questioned, while placing emphasis on the word now. That question made her master stand still. Tsunade turned around to face Shizune with a sad expression and replied, my cousin and her husband have died yesterday night. Chapter 6 A new last name Hiruzen was trying his best to contain his anger. He was sitting in his office trying to find out who leaked information to public about the newborn baby sleeping in his office being the Jinchuriki of Kyubi. There have been 14 assassination attempts on the boy's life in the last 3 days. All of the assailants were caught by his Anbu dog, Tenzo and cat. These assailants were then interrogated by Ibiki. The interrogation results left Hiruzen shocked. All of them were people of his own village. People whom his successor died saving, are now trying to kill his son. You can come in now. Hiruzen said all of a sudden. For a few seconds there was no response, but then someone entered through the Hokage office window and stood facing Hiruzen. It's been a long time sensei. The person greeted with a somber expression on his face. Indeed it has been Jiraiya, Hiruzen said releasing a sigh. Minato and Kushina are gone, the now identified Jiraiya said as a statement, to which Hiruzen didn't say anything. For a few moments, neither sensei nor the student said anything. Both were reflecting on their failures. I failed to save those 3 in the Rain Village and now I failed to save Minato and Kushina too. Had I stayed back in Leaf, maybe Minato and Kushina would have still been alive, were the thoughts running rampant in the Toad Sannin's head. If it was me that did the deed to save this village, maybe I would have saved both their lives and I would not be there to see my own people falling down so much as to try to take the life of a child, were Hiruzen's thoughts. The painful silence was broken when Hiruzen's personal assistant peeked her head through the door and said, Lord Third, Lady Tsunade is here to see you. That broke the both of them out of their trance. Jiraiya tried processing what the assistant said in his mind and when it clicked, he shouted in surprise, Tsunade is back in the Leaf. Jiraiya's outburst caused the baby in the office to wake up from his sleep and he started to make whimpering and crying noises. Hiruzen rushed to the crib and picked up the baby. He then started to rock him gently trying to calm him down. Once the boy calmed a little Hiruzen asked his assistant, please send her in. His assistant went back to do as she was asked. It took a few moments for Jiraiya to realize who the baby boy is, but when he got a glimpse of blonde hair peeking through the bundle Hiruzen was holding, he was sure that the boy was who he thought him to be. Jiraiya approached Hiruzen and took a good look at the baby in his sensei's arms. Is he? The Sannin tried to ask slowly this time, so as not to make the boy uncomfortable again. Yes. His sensei confirmed his guess. He looks like both of them. Jiraiya said looking at the boy, while the baby boy was looking back at the Sannin with curious blue eyes. Jiraiya then took the boy in his hands to get a good look at his godson. The baby was good for a few moments but then he was getting a bit uncomfortable. Jiraiya tried to calm him by gently rocking him, but the boy kept struggling. Hiruzen took the boy from Jiraiya and tried to calm the boy himself, but it was not working. Both men tried everything they could, but the boy wasn't calming down. He was not crying but has a troubled expression and was nearly whimpering, but they don't know why and what to do now. They started to make some faces to entertain the boy. When Tsunade walked in, what she saw was comical. Her sensei and her old teammate were making some stupid faces. Shizune also could not explain why Jiraiya was stretching his mouth with 2 fingers in front of a whimpering baby. Tsunade sighed at their pathetic attempt to calm the baby. Both men were startled when Tsunade walked up to them and took the baby boy into her arms. She wrapped him up in her warm embrace. The boy instantly calmed down and smiled as she rubbed his back while holding him gently. She gazed at him and the boy looked up at her with curious eyes. She tore her gaze away from the blonde baby and looked straight at her sensei. Tell me everything sensei, Tsunade more or less demanded while still keeping the baby in a warm embrace. Few painful moments later, Shizune was holding the baby while she sat on a couch inside the Hokage's office. Hiruzen sat in his chair behind the desk, Jiraiya was leaning on the opposite wall facing his sensei and Tsunade sat on the window with both of her legs placed on bottom space of the window. She was looking out through the window. If one looked close enough they can see some dried tears on her face. The painful silence between the two Sanin and their sensei was occasionally broken by the giggling sounds made by the baby boy. So he is her son? Tsunade suddenly asked without turning her face. Yes he is, it was Jiraiya who replied. Why is he here in the office? Why is he not in the hospital nursery room? Tsunade inquired, this time looking straight towards her sensei. Hiruzen released a sigh and replied, he was not safe there. What do you mean he's not safe in the hospital? Tsunade questioned. Jiraiya also raised an eyebrow at his sensei's words but he didn't say anything. There were some situations. Third Hokage said. What situations exactly? It was Jiraiya who asked, this time putting emphasis on the word situations. Hiruzen exhaled deeply, feeling his age for the first time since taking up on the Hokage mantle again. There were 14 assassination attempts on the boy's life. Granted, all the assassins were captured and are placed in heavy security prison. Both Jiraiya and Tsunade grew serious at this. Is it hidden stone? Jiraiya inquired. It must be Onoki. That damned old midget will do anything to get back at Minato. Tsunade expressed her anger, while spitting out the name Onoki like it was a poison. Well, I thought the same at first too, but it was not him. Hiruzen cleared their doubts before his two students could go out to do something drastic against Stone Village, and that will lead them straight towards Fourth Great Ninja War. If it's not him, then who sent the assassins? Jiraiya thought out loud. It's the civilians and some ninjas of our own village. Hiruzen dropped the bomb on them. All those present inside the office except Hiruzen were shocked. There was a heavy silence that fell inside the Hokage office right after Hiruzen uttered those words. The tension was heavy among all of them. The baby boy also seemed to sense the tension as he made some whimpering noises. Shizune excused herself to go out of the office to calm the boy. Once Shizune and the baby were outside, Jiraiya calmly asked, why? He's the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki. Hiruzen started to say but was interrupted when the desk in front of him was smashed into million pieces, courtesy of a raged Tsunade. Don't give me that nonsense, sensei. Would they be willing to kill him just because he's a Jinchuriki? Are the villagers so blind that they are willing to kill a child who is the son of the person who saved them? Tsunade asked in between her anger. To tell you the truth, they don't know who he is, Hiruzen replied calmly like he was not even bothered by Tsunade's rage. What do you mean they don't know who he is? Jiraiya asked sounding shocked. I mean, they don't know who his father is. Hiruzen answered his student. Silence prevailed once again in the room the three were in. Both Sanin tried to process what their sensei was telling them. You mean to say, Tsunade started saying a few seconds later while cracking her knuckles. Her teammate Jiraiya then continued her words, you told the villagers that he is the Jinchuriki while you withheld the information about who his father is. As he was uttering those words, his chakra started to flare unconsciously. Hiruzen took a deep breath and just when it was feeling like his own students would attack him, he released a very massive and potent killing intent, focusing it on his two students. Jiraiya and Tsunade saw their own deaths 5 or so times. It was then, they remembered that their sensei was once known as God of Shinobi. Hiruzen settled down after a few moments. Jiraiya and Tsunade seemed to be able to, actually listen to him this time fully. It was not me who informed the public about his Jinchuriki status. I'm still trying to find out the person who leaked it. As for not informing the villagers about who his parents are, what do you guys think if Hidden Stone or more importantly Onoki finds out about him? Hiruzen said, more or less scolded his students, like a father would to his stubborn children. Both Sanin understood what he was saying now. If Onoki finds out about the boy, he will be hell-bent on taking the boy's life. So what did you think of doing to protect him? Jiraiya asked. I will give him his mother's last name. I also initiated a law forbidding any talk about Kyuubi. Hopefully the boy will have a chance of making friends in future. Hiruzen explained his idea. That's a good idea, sensei, but there is a major flaw in it. Hidden Cloud already tried to kidnap Kushina when she was a child. If you give the boy his mother's name, what makes you so sure that Hidden Cloud would not attempt to kidnap him too? Jiraiya countered. I will. Hiruzen started to say but stopped, stumbling upon his own words. He looked like he just now realized the problem posed by Hidden Cloud. I didn't take Hidden Cloud into consideration. He admitted. While both the Toad Sage and Hiruzen were bickering back and forth about how to protect the boy and how to proceed in the future, Tsunade was lost in her own thoughts. Even after quite a while, it seemed that both Jiraiya and Hiruzen could not find an idea to ensure the boy's safety. The entire office room was filled with arguments and disagreements between the sensei and student. I will adopt him, Tsunade said suddenly. Pin-drop silence followed her words as both Jiraiya and Hiruzen were shocked with her exclamation. He's the only family I've got left with. I've already lost many loved ones to this village. I don't want to lose him too. I will take him away from this village's stupidity. Tsunade expressed her feelings. But what will you do with the problem posed by Hidden Stone or Hidden Cloud? Hiruzen asked, still shocked. He will be my son. He will be the heir of the Senju clan. If someone still wants go after him, they will have to deal with me first. Tsunade explained her final decision. But Tsunade, Hiruzen tried to protest, but was interrupted by the Toad Sanin who said, I will also be there, to deal with whoever comes targeting him. Hiruzen saw the determination in Tsunade's eyes and he knew he lost this argument. He released deep breath and said, fine, I will ready the documents tomorrow for you to adopt him. We will have to complete it before the village council gets wind of this matter. I am getting too old to listen to all their bickering. Just then Shizune walked in holding a peacefully sleeping boy in her arms. Tsunade took the baby from her. Then both Shizune and Tsunade went back to the Senju compound in the Leaf Village to rest for the night. Next morning, Senju clan compound, Tsunade woke up soon, so she can feed the baby. She picked up the baby from his crib and held him warmly in her embrace. The baby started to tug her robe, so she opened her robe and let the baby to latch onto her breast while she held a ram hand sign and the baby started feeding himself. Few moments later Shizune walked in on the scene and stared in disbelief as she saw her master breastfeeding the baby. It's a jutsu that uses chakra to forcefully activate the mammary glands to start the process of lactation and creates milk for the child. Tsunade explained, seeing the stupefied expression on her assistant's face. Well, Lady Tsunade, sometimes I forget I'm the apprentice of the legendary medic in the elemental nations. Shizune exclaimed while she sat down near the mother and son. There was glow of happiness on Tsunade's face that she was lacking all these years. Maybe this baby will be the ray of hope her master needed in her life. A few moments later the baby stopped feeding himself and Tsunade tied her robe. She handed the baby to Shizune, so she could get ready to go and finish the paperwork needed to officially declare the adoption process. Few hours later, at the Hokage office, Tsunade finished signing all the documents required to finish the adoption process. Hiruzen was going through the paperwork, making sure he didn't miss anything. Okay Tsunade, he's your son officially. Hiruzen said once he was satisfied that all the paperwork was perfect. Good. Tsunade replied as she cooed at the baby in her hands. There is one last thing to do now. That is, his birth certificate. Hiruzen said and then he continued again, what do you want his last name to be? Tsunade held the baby close to her face and gazed lovingly at him while the baby gazed at her with his curious eyes as he rubbed her cheek with a bright smile. Tsunade finally answered her sensei, who was waiting patiently, he is my son, Naruto Senju. Chapter 7 A new sibling 10 days later, after completing adoption process. As soon as the adoption process was complete, Tsunade expressed her desire to take the baby Naruto away from the Leaf Village. Hiruzen, who had already witnessed all the assassination attempts, agreed with her decision. But he agreed to her decision on the condition that she will help all the ninjas and civilians who were wounded in the Nine Tails attack. Tsunade agreed to the condition. It took her a full week to heal all those who were wounded in the attack. The remaining 3 days were spent on collecting all of her Senju clan fortune, so she could raise Naruto. Now Tsunade and Shizune were already packed and were walking towards the village gates. It was still too early in the morning, so no one was present outside except a very few villagers who were starting to work early. Lady Tsunade, isn't it a little too fast to leave? Shizune asked the question that was bugging her mind since last night when her master informed her that they would be leaving the village in the early morning. This village is blinded with its hatred. I don't want to lose him to their hatred. Tsunade said the last part looking at the baby Naruto in her arms. Shizune understood the inner meaning of her master words and kept walking alongside her. As soon as they arrived at the gates, they saw Hiruzen waiting for them patiently. Sensei. Tsunade didn't know why he was there. I'm here to fulfill my duty that I promised to his parents. He replied, referring to Naruto. Which is? Tsunade inquired. Hiruzen took out 3 scrolls from his robes. One scroll was colored in red, second one was colored in golden yellow, and the third was plain white in color. He handed all the 3 to her. The white scroll contains all the fortune that Naruto's parents left him with. Hiruzen said with a grim expression, remembering the cost of that fateful night. Thanks. But I don't think I will need it. The Senju fortune I have is already enough. Tsunade tried to refuse. I know. But, it's one of their final wishes. Hiruzen replied, remembering one of Kushina's final wishes. Alright. Tsunade conceded. But what's with these 2 scrolls? She questioned, referring to the 2 remaining scrolls. They are all the jutsus that his parents used and created in their lifetime. These scrolls can only be opened by the blood of their descendant. He replied while placing emphasis on the word created. Tsunade understood what he was referring to and placed the 3 scrolls in her backpack carefully. Now to the final matter, I'm here to ask you to bring Naruto back to Leaf Village when he is ready. Hiruzen dropped the bomb. No. Tsunade shot down his request. Hiruzen did not react to her rejection, instead he was expecting her to say no. But he made a promise to someone. It was Kushina's final wish, for him to be Hokage and continue their dreams. He said, remembering her final words. That brought Tsunade's world upside down. She stood in silence for a few moments. Then she composed herself, and gazed at her son in her arms, who was having a bright smile, as soon as he heard the name Kushina. If he decides to come here, I won't stop him. That's all I can promise. Tsunade replied finally while caressing Naruto's cheek. That's all I can ask for. Hiruzen compromised to the fact that she was willing to allow Naruto to return, if he wishes to come back to Leaf Village. Goodbye sensei, Tsunade said to her sensei and started walking. Soon Shizune also followed her out of the village gates. Hiruzen stood watching the retreating forms of Tsunade and Shizune until they can no longer be seen. Now comes the difficult part. Breaking the news to the village council. Hiruzen thought while rubbing his temples. Far away in the sand village, he's so small. He's premature. Are you really sure he's going to be alright? Rasa questioned Chio, worrying about his son's health. He was holding a tiny child with red hair. The baby has dark rings around his eyes, just like how his father gets dark rings around his eyes when he uses his golden dust. I'm not sure, but since he's born premature, he has to be taken good care of, to ensure his health. Chio replied. Please let me, see my baby's face, a bedridden Karura asked in between pants and heavy breaths. She was exhausted from giving birth to a child prematurely. Are you alright Karura? Rasa almost shouted in panic, appearing right beside her while carefully holding the baby. I think I'll be fine, where's my, baby? Karura asked her husband again. Rasa placed the newborn baby near Karura with extra care. Karura turned a little to her left side so she can see her son. Karura took her very first look at her son and she got tears of happiness in her eyes. He's so tiny, muttered Karura while caressing her son very gently. Just then the door to the operating room opened a little and Tamari poked her head inside and asked, Is mom okay? Tamari, come in, and see your, brother, Karura called out to her eldest daughter. Tamari walked in being very careful not to disturb anything in the operating room. Following a step behind her was Kankuro. He was also being very careful not to touch anything. Both children approached their mom who was looking exhausted. The happiness that both children got when they first saw their youngest sibling cannot be put into words. Tamari was the first to speak. Can I hold him? Not now, Rasa informed his daughter. Why? It was Kankuro who questioned. Your brother is born prematurely, so we have to take extra care of him. Once we ensure that his health is fine, you can hold him. Chio answered the children. What's premature? Tamari doesn't know its meaning since she is too young. Don't worry, you can hold him soon, Karura consoled her children. Okay, both children said downtrodden. Kage-sama, what will be the name of your son? We need to make an entry for his birth certificate. One of the doctors in the room asked Rasa. It was Karura who answered, he's my son Gara. Chapter 8 Growing up. It has been 6 months since they left the Leaf Village. Tsunade and Shizune settled in a small forest area near the Land of Waves. They bought a plot of land that's enough for a two-story house, a garden and a small playground for Naruto. They approached a builder named Tazuna to build them their dream house. Tazuna was a very popular builder around in Land of Waves. He built a very perfect house for them to start raising baby Naruto. Talking about Naruto, he started crawling 1 month back. He was always a troublemaker for his mom and sister. He kept both of them on their toes. One day Shizune found Naruto in the playground playing with mud. Needless to say she was chewed out by Tsunade. At present Tsunade was in the garden in front of their house. She was sitting on a picnic mat placed on the ground while Naruto was playing with a stuffed toy near her. The toy was a cute yellow-colored mouse with 2 long ears and has a red circle on each cheek. It has a tail that is shaped in a zigzag style. The toy has some black stripes on its back. Naruto was hell-bent on having it when Tsunade took him to the local toy store. Toy store owner said its name was Pika, or something. Tsunade thought. She was so lost in her thoughts that she didn't see Naruto opening his hands, asking her to pick him up. But then, Mama, Tsunade got wide-eyed before whipping her head so fast towards Naruto and picked him up. What did you say, Naru? She asked her son. Mama, said Naruto again, tilting his head cutely, making her heart melt in those words. Tsunade was having tears of happiness in her eyes and took her son into a warm embrace. Shizune, who just walked up to them carrying a tray of snacks, dropped it when she heard Naruto speaking his first words. She hurried up to the pair. Can you call me, Sis Naru? She asked her little brother, getting hopeful. See. Naruto tried to repeat the word his sister just said with a confused but cute expression on his face. Sis, Shizune repeated again, slowly this time so he can see her lips. Sis. Naruto said, imitating his sister. Yes. That's my baby brother. She shouted happily, raising her fist into the air. Did you see that lady Tsunade? Naru called me sis, she said, feeling excitement. Then a giggling Naruto lifted his hands, asking his sister to pick him up. Shizune picked him up from Tsunade and started to jump around in excitement, while the boy was giggling happily. What's with all the celebrations? A confused-looking Jiraiya asked, scratching his head. He called me mama. He called me sis. Both ladies replied at once. Really? Jiraiya said, not believing their words. Mama, Naruto chirped again with a foxy grin. All of a sudden Jiraiya appeared kneeling in front of Naruto, who was still in Shizune's hands. That's my godson. He was having tears of his own. Tsunade was actually glad that Jiraiya was making time from his spy network to check in on Naruto whenever he could. He was being a good godfat. Now say, shake that booty girl, Jiraiya said with a perverted giggle. Crickets could be heard chirping in the background while 2 wide-eyed, dumbfounded ladies and a confused Naruto kept staring at him. Shizune, take Naruto inside, ordered Tsunade calmly, cracking her knuckles. Jiraiya gulped in fear when he saw Tsunade has a tick mark on her forehead. It was at this moment, he knew, he fucked up, and she was pissed. Shizune took a happily waving Naruto inside. She completely ignored the shouting and pleading that followed. Don't even think of corrupting my son. Not there, not there, oh www. Baby Naruto, who heard the screams, started clapping and said, Mama, boom. Cage residence, Sand Village. Ah, what's going on? A confused-looking Rasa asked the celebrating mother and daughter duo. Karura was hugging her son Gaara affectionately and Tamari was making faces at her brother, making him giggle, and was jumping and spinning in excitement. Both mother and daughter saw Rasa standing in the doorway to Gaara's room. He called me mama. He called me sis. Both ladies replied at once. Really? Rasa said, not believing their words. Mama, Gaara chirped again with a giggle. Kankuro, who just walked in to see what the commotion was about and heard his baby brother's first words. He rushed to his baby brother, who was still in Karura's hands. That's my brother, exclaimed Kankuro. Rasa was glad that he made the right choice. He could see that they are a perfect fam. Now say, makeup is great. Kankuro said with stupid grin. Crickets could be heard chirping in the background while 2 wide-eyed, dumbfounded ladies and a confused Gaara kept staring at him. Rasa's eyes became the size of dish plates. Karura handed Gaara to Tamari. Tamari, take Gaara outside and play. she said calmly. Tamari, who was still wide-eyed, took her brother and went out of the room. I just remembered a paperwork that I forgot to finish. Rasa smartly escaped the situation, leaving Kankuro to face Karura, who was having tick mark on her forehead and she was cracking her knuckles. Kankuro was sweating comically. Rasa and Tamari completely ignored the girly scream that followed few seconds after they left. Baby Gara, who heard the girly scream, started clapping and said, "Mama, boom." Chapter 9. Born for each other. It has been quite a while since Baby Gara started to speak his very first words. As time went on, he started saying the words such as, Dada, to refer his father to, which made his father emotional. Kankuro saw his father getting emotional for the very first time in his 3 years of life. Today is a very special day for the family. It was Temari's 4th birthday. Entire family was preparing for a family celebration at night and Karura has a special gift for her eldest daughter. Tamari.